My wife is in Hawaii with her lover while I'm at our 5-year-old son's funeral. She texted me, sorry, important business meeting. What she doesn't know is, I know everything. I stood there in the pouring rain, not even bothering to shield myself with an umbrella. The casket was barely half lowered and my hands trembled, not just from the cold but from the weight of everything that had unraveled in the last 48 hours. My boy Ethan was gone. A drunk driver. Instant. No goodbye, no warning, just silence. And her? Rachel was on the beach drinking mimosas with a man named Carter. I saw the photos. Bikini, sunglasses, his hand on her lower back like he owned her. She sent me that message, sorry, important business meeting at exactly 11:04 a.m. The service started at 11. She didn't even have the decency to fake a phone call. Just a text. Like she was canceling a lunch reservation, not skipping her only son's funeral. I watched as people threw flowers onto the coffin. My mother sobbed beside me. My brother gritted his teeth, barely holding it together. And all I could hear in my head was her laugh, the one I used to love, now echoing in my mind like a knife dragged across glass. I imagined her on a white hotel bed, moaning into his chest while our son was lowered into the ground. But here's the thing, Rachel thinks she's smart. She thinks she's subtle. That's her power, playing innocent while destroying lives in stilettos and lipstick. But she made one mistake, she left her iPad at home. Unlocked. And that iPad was synced to her messages. That's how I found out 2 nights ago. I was sitting in Ethan's room holding his stuffed dinosaur, trying to understand how to breathe again when her iPad chimed with a message from Carter Palmtree. I opened it out of instinct, just pure reflex. And what I read, it made my blood turn to ice. Your husband's still busy with the funeral? LOL. Good. Tonight's just us. Room 306. Bring that black set I like. Set. Not outfit. Set. And there were photos. Not even tasteful. No shame. No filter. She looked euphoric. Not grieving. Not broken. Like a woman who had been set free. I scrolled further. There were months' worth of conversations. Private jokes. Nicknames. Plans. Plans for a future. Their future. Without me. Without Ethan. She called our son a mistake that ruined her 20s. That was the moment something inside me split. No tears. Just quiet rage. The kind that makes a man stop feeling and start calculating. She thought I would be too blinded by grief to notice. But grief sharpens you. Strips away the nonsense. Makes you see everything as it is. So while she's sipping cocktails on a rented cabana, I'm making plans of my own. I've already contacted the lawyer. I've already sent the entire chat log to her boss at the marketing firm. You see, Rachel's important business meeting is about to cost her more than just her job. And the best part? She doesn't know any of this yet. She'll come home to a house that's no longer hers, a name that's been erased, and a husband who's already buried the last thing he ever loved. She killed Ethan twice, once with absence and again with betrayal. And now I wait. I didn't go home after the funeral. I drove aimlessly for hours, letting the rain smear my windshield like it was trying to erase the world. My suit was soaked through, my tie undone, shoes muddy from the cemetery. I didn't care. I didn't even turn on the heat. Just drove in silence, with Ethan's voice echoing in the back of my mind, his giggle, the way he called me Dada, the little knock he used to do on his bedroom wall to let me know he wanted water. That knock still haunted me more than the silence that followed. Eventually, I pulled into the old cabin my dad left me in his will. I hadn't been there in years. The lock stuck, the inside smelled of dust and would rot, but it was quiet. And it was mine. I needed space to think, to breathe, to plan. Because if I stayed in our house a second longer, I would have broken something. Or someone. The first thing I did was open the photos again. Her and Carter. Laughing on a yacht. Her legs over his, a glass of white wine in her hand, her head thrown back like she was finally living her dream life. My thumb hovered over the forward button. I already sent some of it to her boss, corporate email, no explanation, just attachments. But now I had to decide how far I'd go. Rachel and I met 10 years ago. College sweethearts. Or so I thought. She used to say I was the only man who ever made her feel safe. I believed her. Built a life around those words. But now I saw what she meant. Safe was boring. Safe was disposable. She didn't want safe. She wanted dangerous. Exciting. Reckless. Like Carter. Carter. The man had the personality of a barbell. I met him once at a company mixer. He sold digital wellness retreats or some new age bull that only people with no real responsibilities fell for. He flirted with every woman at the party, including mine. I remember the way Rachel laughed at his jokes, touching his arm like she wasn't married. I dismissed it. Told myself I was being insecure. She told me I was imagining things. I wasn't. Back then, I had no idea she had already started sleeping with him. It had been 9 months, according to the messages. She was pregnant when it started. Ethan was still inside her when she chose someone else. I punched the wall of the cabin. Hard. My knuckles split open, blood smeared across the wood. Good. Pain grounded me. Reminded me I was still alive, even if barely. Her last message that morning said, "Don't call. No signal here. Just focus on Ethan. I'll be back Monday. Love you." Love? You. She didn't even remember the funeral was on Saturday. She thought she could disappear for a week, come home, wipe fake tears on a black dress, and play the grieving mother. She didn't know I'd seen it all. I sat at the old kitchen table and began writing everything down, dates, screenshots, bank statements. She had been using my credit card to book their flights, their hotels. She bought him gifts, lingerie, whiskey, even paid his car insurance 1 month. That was the month I had to sell my watch to cover Ethan's therapy bills. I thought we were struggling. She said money was tight. She said Ethan doesn't need all that extra stuff. But Carter did, apparently. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was financial. It was spiritual. It was nuclear. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I plotted. Tomorrow, I'd go back home. I'd strip the house of everything that belonged to her: clothes, jewelry, every last scented candle. I'd pack it in boxes and leave them at her sister's doorstep. I'd change the locks, freeze the bank account, cancel the joint credit cards. I was done being the quiet one. I was done pretending this marriage had any heartbeat left. And when she landed at JFK, thinking she could slide back into our life, into her role as grieving mother and faithful wife, she'd be met with a cold, clean erasure. Because the woman who went to Hawaii isn't my wife. She's a stranger who let our son go into the ground without his mother there to hold his hand. And strangers don't get second chances. Sunday morning, I woke up with one goal in mind: erase Rachel. Not out of spite, out of survival. The cabin air was freezing, the wooden floor cold under my bare feet. My knuckles throbbed, dried blood crusted across the split skin from last night's punch. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, a man hollowed out but not broken. Not anymore. The grief still sat in my chest like a stone, but now it had company: rage. Focused, calculated rage. I drove back to the house. The same house where Ethan took his first steps, in the hallway where we danced barefoot in the kitchen after putting him to sleep. The same house where Rachel whispered promises into my ear with the same mouth she used to lie, to cheat, to excuse her absence as work. Her perfume still lingered in the master bedroom. I grabbed a trash bag and started with the drawers. Every lace thing, every designer blouse bought on my dime, I stuffed them all in like they were garbage. Because now that's all they were. Reminders of a life that wasn't real. I took her framed photos off the wall. That fake smile. That manipulative glint in her eyes I once mistook for passion. I shattered one against the edge of the kitchen counter. Glass flew everywhere. It felt good. Like setting fire to a house infested with termites. Her makeup kit. Her stupid, overpriced skincare serums. Her fake journal filled with quotes about manifesting joy and being true to yourself. I dumped it all in the bags. I found a receipt tucked inside the journal: dinner for 2, Ocean View, Maui. Dated 2 nights before Ethan's accident. They were celebrating while I was screaming into a hospital hallway. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring out. Then it rang again. Voicemail. I played it on speaker. "Hey babe, it's me. Just checking in. No signal where I am, but I found a spot near a juice bar. Hope everything's going okay. I miss you." She missed me. My stomach turned. She had no idea. Not about the funeral. Not about the lawyer. Not about the bomb I was about to drop on her world. I walked into Ethan's room last. His little socks were still in the hamper. His toy cars lined up by the window just the way he left them. The dinosaur bedspread untouched. I sat on the edge of his bed and breathed him in. Baby shampoo and crayon wax. My eyes burned, but I didn't let the tears fall. Not now. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop and typed the last of the affidavit. I attached the screenshots, the texts, the photos, the receipts. I sent the file to the lawyer. I CC'd her boss again. Just to be sure. Then I sent it to her parents. Her mother always looked at me like I was the charity case Rachel picked up from the discount bin. Let her read what her daughter's perfect marriage looked like behind the curtains. I made 3 phone calls after that. One to the locksmith, he'd be there within the hour. One to my best friend Mason, he'd agreed to help me move Rachel's stuff into a U-Haul. and one to a courier. I needed a letter hand-delivered to the airport when Rachel landed. The letter was short. Rachel? While you were away finding your joy, I buried our son alone. Your things are no longer in this house. The bank account is frozen. The lawyer will contact you Monday. You're free now. So am I. Matt. Her flight was scheduled to land at 5:15 p.m. The letter would be waiting for her with a man holding a sign that read Mrs. Monroe. Poetic. Around noon, Mason showed up with coffees. He didn't ask questions. He just looked at me and said, "Let's get her the hell out of here." It took us 2 hours to pack everything. Every trace of her gone. When the locksmith changed the front door lock, I watched through the window. A sense of finality settled in my chest. I wasn't just removing her. I was burying a lie. She had already buried my heart when she skipped our son's funeral for a fling in paradise. Now it was my turn. And Rachel? She had no idea the paradise she ran to was the beginning of her downfall. 5:17 p.m. Her plane had landed. I watched the status update on the JFK arrivals board like a sniper watches for a target to step into view. Arrived. Just like that. While my hands were still stained from carrying boxes of her lies out of my home, she was rolling her luggage off a jet bridge in designer sandals, 10 lines from Betrayal still fresh on her skin. I imagined her walking through that terminal, scanning for an Uber, maybe expecting me to show up with flowers like some clueless, grieving puppy. What she found instead was a courier with a stiff suit and a cold expression holding a white envelope and a sign, Mrs. Rachel Monroe. Her name. My name. Not for long. I didn't need to see her face. I knew exactly how she'd react. First, confusion because she always believed she was untouchable. Then, a flicker of panic because she'd feel that envelope's weight and realize it wasn't love letters inside. Finally, Rach. Because Rachel wasn't built to handle consequences. Only attention. Back at the house, silence wrapped around me like a second skin. A different silence than before. Less haunted, more hollow. A quiet waiting to be filled, but not by her voice anymore. I stood at the kitchen counter, staring at my wedding ring. I had taken it off earlier, left it there like a forgotten coin. It looked meaningless now. Small. Pointless. She texted me 5 times. Rachel? Who gave you the right? Where are my things? I'm calling my lawyer. How could you do this to me? You're sick. I didn't answer. Her 6th message came at 5:52 p.m. I was grieving too. You're not the only one who lost a son. I needed space. Carter was just a distraction. You think this makes you better than me? Better than her? No. But I was done being less. At 6:10 p.m. she called. I let it ring. Then again. Again. I finally picked up on the 3rd try, holding the phone like it was coated in venom. Matt, she said. Her voice sweet, scared, rehearsed. I stayed silent. Matt, I just got your letter. This isn't you. You're just hurting, baby. We both are. Now she played the victim. The grieving mother. The abandoned wife. You left, I said, my voice calm, cutting. You didn't call. You didn't ask. You ran. It wasn't like that. You missed his funeral. The line went dead quiet. Not even her breath. I didn't know it was today. You didn't ask. Matt, please. Don't. Just don't. She inhaled sharply, probably trying to cry. Trying to pull out those alligator tears she reserved for courtroom dramas and family reunions. But this wasn't a script she could control. I didn't mean for things to go this far, she said. But they did. There was a long silence. Then the venom showed. You can't just erase me. That's my house too. Not anymore. My name is still on the lease, you idiot. It was. I already filed. Emergency petition. My lawyer found an angle. Adultery, abandonment, misuse of marital funds. You'll be lucky to keep your toothbrush. Her gasp was real this time. You're doing this to punish me, she snapped. No. I'm doing this so I don't have to remember the woman who smiled on a yacht while her child was lowered into the earth. That shut her up. For the first time in years, Rachel had no words. I ended the call. It rang again within seconds. I blocked the number. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel powerful. I just felt done. Like a man who finally stopped banging on a locked door and turned away, not because he gave up, but because he realized no one decent lived behind it. Later that night, Mason sent me a photo. Rachel, standing in the rain outside her sister's apartment, makeup running, screaming into her phone, surrounded by 5 boxes of her past life. He delivered her things just like I asked. She looked like a woman who'd finally realized the house of mirrors she'd built had shattered. And I went to bed alone. And slept for the first time in days. I woke up Monday morning to silence. Not grief. Not regret. Just the kind of silence that comes after the last grenade has gone off and all that's left is dust in the air. Rachel had stopped calling sometime after midnight. Or maybe she was too busy trying to put her fake life back together. Good luck with that. My lawyer called first thing. He was impressed with the documentation I'd collected. Photos, messages, timestamps, even credit card transactions linked to their getaway. We were building a legal bomb she wouldn't see coming until the court slammed the gavel. You're playing this right, Matt, he said. Let her spiral. The more emotional she gets, the more leverage you'll have. And spiral she did. By noon, my inbox was full of messages. Her boss had responded. Dear Mr. Monroe, thank you for bringing this to our attention. The conduct you've shared is being reviewed by HR immediately. Please know this matter is being taken seriously. Translation, her so-called business trip was about to cost her the career she clung to like it made her special. Rachel had always used that job like armor, suits, client meetings, presentations. She thought dressing powerfully made her untouchable. But emails don't lie. And corporate ethics departments don't care how nice your heels are. But it wasn't just her job that was unraveling. Her parents had also replied, Matt, we had no idea what was going on. Rachel hasn't spoken to us in days. If even half of what you sent us is true, we're heartbroken. We loved Ethan. We're so sorry you went through this alone. They didn't defend her. That hit harder than I expected. Rachel's mom had once told me you'll never be good enough for my daughter. Yeah? She was apologizing to me. I stared at that message for a while. Not because I needed the apology, but because I realized something. Rachel was losing everything, not because I was out for revenge, but because she had finally been seen for who she really was. The mask was off. And without it, there wasn't much left. Around 3 p.m., Mason dropped by with lunch. I hadn't eaten properly in days. We sat on the back porch, 2 paper bags of takeout between us, the spring air strangely warm. You sure you're okay? He asked. I'm better than I should be. He nodded slowly. I still can't believe she missed the funeral. That's next level evil. She didn't just miss it, I said, my voice flat. She replaced it with cocktails and pillow talk. Mason shook his head, pushing fries around with his fork. You want me to call Carter? I looked at him, surprised. I mean, not to talk. Just to make sure his car windows don't survive the week. I let out a bitter laugh. Tempting. But I want him to watch her unravel. She's not worth a criminal record. Mason raised his drink. To wisdom. I clinked his cup with mine. After he left, I went back inside. The house felt different. Not lighter, not yet. But cleaner. Like a room after someone finally throws out the moldy rug. I walked past Ethan's room, paused, and stepped inside. There it was again. That knock in the back of my mind. That little rhythm he used to make on the wall when he wanted a story before bed. I sat on the edge of his bed and let the silence speak. I thought about the book we never finished reading. The Lego set we were supposed to build on his birthday. I thought about what he would have been like at 10. At 16. A father doesn't stop seeing his son's future just because it gets stolen. I reached into the top drawer of his nightstand and pulled out the tiny red race car he loved most. It was chipped, scratched, and missing a wheel. But to him, it was everything. To me now, it was all I had left. I put it in my jacket pocket. Not for memory. For strength. Because the next step wasn't survival. It was rebuilding. And it was time to start. Tuesday morning felt strange. I wasn't waking up in the wreckage anymore. The firestorm had already passed, and now I was walking through what was left, figuring out what could be salvaged and what needed to stay buried. Rachel still hadn't stopped texting. Her tone shifted every few hours. First, she was furious. Then apologetic. Then furious again. Like she was trying on different masks, hoping one would still fit the version of me she used to control. You've made your point. You're ruining my life. We can work through this. You're a coward hiding behind lawyers. He was my son too. That last one hit a nerve, but not in the way she intended. Yes, Ethan was her son too. But what kind of mother runs away when her son is being lowered into the ground? What kind of mother misses his final breath and dares to use his name as leverage in an argument? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My silence was finally louder than her noise. By 10 a.m. I got a call from her sister, Lisa. I debated ignoring it, but Lisa was different. She had been there at the hospital. She cried at the funeral. She held my hand when the doctor came out with that flat voice that said everything and nothing at once. Matt, Lisa began, her voice cautious, I just wanted you to know. Rachel's not doing well. Not my problem, I said calmly. I know. I'm not asking you to fix anything, she said. She's not used to losing. She thought you'd crawl back. She doesn't understand what she lost, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Lisa was quiet for a moment. I just thought you should hear it from someone who's not trying to manipulate you. I appreciated that. I really did. But I also didn't care. Not anymore. She's still with Carter? I asked. Lisa hesitated. She tried staying with me last night but started screaming when she saw her boxes. Blamed me. Said I was helping you humiliate her. Then she left. I assume she's with him, yes? Of course. Where else would she go? Her parents had sided with me. Her job was on ice pending an ethics investigation. Her sister wasn't enabling the fantasy anymore. Carter was all she had left, and something told me even he was starting to see the cracks. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, a glass of whiskey untouched in front of me. I wasn't drinking much these days, not because I was being strong, but because I needed my head clear. I had been living in a fog for too long, and clarity was my weapon now. I pulled out a piece of paper and started to write something I hadn't planned to, a letter to Ethan. Ethan, I miss you every second. Every breath. The house is too quiet without your laugh. I keep expecting to hear your feet running down the hall or your little knock on the wall. You were magic, kiddo. You turned sadness into light just by walking into a room. I want you to know that I tried. I tried so hard to give you a life filled with love and safety. I didn't know your mom had already left us long before Hawaii. I didn't see it coming, and for that I'm sorry. But I promise you this, I won't let her betrayal be the end of my story. Or yours. You will be remembered the right way. With love. With honesty. With truth. And I will carry you with me. Always. Dad. I folded the letter and placed it inside one of Ethan's storybooks. The one he never got to finish. Then I packed a small bag, grabbed the book, and got into my car. Where was I going? I didn't know exactly, but I knew I couldn't stay still anymore. The house felt like a mausoleum. I needed space. I needed mountains. Trees. Wind. Maybe healing doesn't happen in the place where everything fell apart. Maybe it happens on the road. I left my wedding ring behind, resting on Ethan's pillow. Let her come back and see what was waiting for her. An empty house. And a closed chapter. I drove all night. No music. No calls. Just the hum of tires on old pavement and the silence I used to be afraid of but now welcomed like an old friend. I didn't have a destination. I just knew I couldn't keep breathing recycled air inside the house where Ethan used to run, where Rachel used to whisper poison disguised as love. Around 4 a.m. I pulled into a small town I didn't recognize. Somewhere in upstate New York. I stopped at a 24-hour diner that looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s, neon lights flickering, a few tired truckers sipping burnt coffee inside. It was exactly what I needed. A place where no one knew my name. A place where no one would ask, "How are you holding up?" I sat at the counter and ordered pancakes I wouldn't eat and coffee I didn't want. The waitress had kind eyes. She didn't ask questions. Just poured the cup and walked away. It was a mercy. I took Ethan's storybook out of my bag. The Boy and the Firefly. His favorite. I remembered the way he used to interrupt the story halfway through, guessing the ending like he already knew it better than I did. He was always right. Always one step ahead of me. I opened the book and felt the letter I wrote to him still tucked inside. I didn't read it again. I didn't need to. I remembered every word. It lived inside me now like he did. When the sun finally rose, I found a small park nearby and sat on a bench under a tree that was just starting to bloom. I don't know why I went there. Maybe because it reminded me of the park where Ethan used to fly kites. Maybe because I needed to be near something growing. Something alive. That's when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Voicemail. I almost deleted it without listening, but something stopped me. I played it. "Matt, it's Carter." "Yeah. I know. Probably the last voice you want to hear. But listen, man, Rachel's losing it. She showed up at my place screaming, crying, accusing me of ruining her life. She's scaring my neighbors. She trashed her own suitcase out on my porch. Said you turned everyone against her, said you lied to her family and sabotaged her job." He paused. His voice sounded unsure. Weak. Not the arrogant beach boy from the texts. "Look, I didn't sign up for all this. She said you hacked her stuff. That she's gonna sue. I don't know, man. Just thought you should know she's not okay." Then he hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. Carter was cracking. Rachel was unraveling. And not a single part of me felt sorry. She wanted a thrill? She got it. She wanted excitement? Well, fire burns, doesn't it? But this wasn't just chaos anymore. This was collapse. I leaned back against the bench, eyes on the branches swaying above me. I could have played the voicemail back again. Analyzed every word. But I didn't. I deleted it. Because I realized something. I wasn't interested in her breakdown. I wasn't waiting for karma. I wasn't seeking justice. I just didn't care anymore. I was free. The real kind of freedom, not the angry kind where you break things and scream into the night, but the quiet kind. The peaceful kind. The kind that comes when you stop bleeding for someone who never tried to stop the knife. Rachel had finally self-destructed, and all I had to do was let gravity do its job. That night, I checked into a cheap motel with creaky floors and mismatched curtains. I showered, shaved, sat on the bed with a pen in my hand and opened a blank page of Ethan's book, not to read. To write. But not about Rachel. Not about the betrayal. I started writing about Ethan. About his laugh. His stubborn refusal to eat green beans. His love of space. His plan to build a rocket ship out of Legos and fly us both to Mars where sad people can't go. I wrote until my hand cramped. Until my eyes stung. Until it felt like he was right there, curled up next to me, humming that made-up song he used to sing when he brushed his teeth. For the first time, the memories didn't break me. They built something new. Something worth saving. The next morning, I watched the sunrise through the dusty motel window. It wasn't spectacular, no cinematic sky, no golden beam slicing through clouds, but it was real. Honest. And maybe that was enough. For the first time since Ethan's death, I didn't wake up with a weight pressing on my chest. The pain was still there, yes, but it had changed. It was no longer the kind that paralyzes. Now it just reminded me he was real. That what we had mattered. That I mattered. I checked my phone out of habit. No messages. No missed calls. Not from Rachel. Not from Carter. Not even from Lisa. Silence. Not empty earned. I made one final call to my lawyer. He picked up on the second ring. Matt. I'm ready, I said. I want full custody of Ethan's resting rights. I want my name to be the one on his headstone. Not hers. She doesn't get to pretend she was part of his story anymore. He didn't hesitate. Understood. I'll file today. Given the circumstances, the judge will likely agree. I'll also move forward on the divorce papers. We'll push for no alimony. If she fights back, we use everything. Use it all, I said. Let her drag her own coffin into the courtroom. It wasn't about revenge. Not anymore. It was about truth. She'd spent years building a mask, a brand, a fantasy. She played the hard-working mother, the loyal wife, the doting partner. But now the masks had been ripped away, one by one, and what was left wasn't even a person, it was a performance gone stale. I left the motel before checkout. I didn't leave a note. I didn't look back. The drive home felt different this time. I took a longer route through winding backroads, past lakes and forests and places untouched by all the noise of the past few weeks. It was like rinsing out my soul. When I got back to the house, it was quiet. And mine. No boxes. No screaming voicemails. No scent of betrayal clinging to the furniture. Just Ethan's room. Just the sound of the wind against the windows. I walked upstairs and opened his door. I hadn't been back since I left. Everything was as I left it. The toy cars, the bookshelf, the dinosaur blanket. But I wasn't the same man. I sat on the floor, held the chipped red race car in my hand and let the silence fill me without drowning me. Then I placed the letter I wrote to Ethan inside the book again, this time not as something to carry with me, but as something to leave behind. A part of me would always stay in that room. But now another part needed to move forward. That night I did something strange. I cooked dinner. Not takeout. Not frozen meals. Real food. I set 2 plates. One for me. One for Ethan. I poured his favorite apple juice and lit a candle. Not because I believed he was there, but because I wanted to remember him right. I sat in silence. I said his name. I smiled. And I ate. When I cleared the plates, I took his to the sink and whispered, "Good night, little man." Later, I sat on the porch, a blanket over my legs, watching the stars slowly emerge. I thought about what Rachel had taken from me. But more importantly, I thought about what she couldn't. She couldn't erase the sound of Ethan's laugh. She couldn't rewrite the story we had. She couldn't take away my strength. And she would never again take my peace. I don't know where she went after Carter. I don't care. Maybe she found another man to spin her stories to. Maybe she finally ran out of people to blame. But as for me, I found something better than closure. I found myself. And if anyone ever asks what I'd say to someone going through what I did, I'd tell them this. Don't wait for the apology. Don't wait for them to feel your pain. Let them go. Let them watch from afar as you rebuild from the rubble they thought would bury you. And when they try to come back, when the mask shatters and their world collapses, don't look back. Don't speak. Don't hate. Just smile. And close the door for good.